So today, here we are on Sunday, 27th of April, the last Sunday in April. Different time zones or not. Across space and time. From the west coast of California, United States, to the central coast of Portugal. The Pacific to the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. I just check the time to make sure that I don't go on and on and on. But the felt sense in the organism now is that there's so much I want to share with you. But so what's in the air is, as I said before, it's 76 degrees here, which I believe is uncharacteristic for early spring. So it feels like summer. It's already here. Yeah. And then so summer feels summer's in the air, late spring. Where did spring go? And death is in the air. Dogs are in the air. There's dogs all over, out here when you walk out. Families, children, and the waves of that ocean, She's dancing, So as we began to settle in Zazen, and I felt the hub of people out there, Mary Oliver's poem, Summer Day, arose in my mind. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Some of you might be familiar with it. But I'd like to share with you. The poem arose, but what actually arose was the last sentence of that poem. And then when I looked it up, then I saw that it's called Summer Day. I remember it was called Summer Day. So even though it might not be still summer, calendar-wise, I think it's appropriate with this other felt sense that I've been carrying. As you know, last Sunday was Easter. We did not meet. And then the next day, Pope Francis died. And then speaking with one of my oldest friends in adulthood yesterday, her oldest friend, since they were teenagers, died on Wednesday. And 2 weeks ago, I received a text from another friend who lives in Europe that her brother suddenly died. And last week, 2 weeks ago, I believe, Enraku Sensei in her Dharma talk spoke of our friend Peter Gregory dying. Seems there's lots of deaths, right? And being here in Portugal, where there's still faith is very strong, we just came through, the death of Jesus. Which for me, having been raised as a young child, my mother told my grandmother, "Yo quiero que las niñas las críen católicas." She wanted us, my sister and I, to be raised Catholic. Just realized just this past week how ingrained is in this body, those teachings, those rituals, and more so felt it alive yesterday when I spent 3 hours watching live the funeral of Pope Francis. So with death being in the air, the Summer Day poem goes like this. This is Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The most famous lines of this poem are usually those last two, Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? But as I've read that those are the most famous lines, it always struck me that for me, of course, that's a very poignant line, but it's also this grasshopper that's eating sugar out of a human hand. That's a miracle. Some other who study Mary Oliver's poem say that actually the heart of that poem is, tell me, what else should I have done? What else should I have done? So two experiences happened this week that are informing what I'm sharing with you. And I thought if I was going to label this, if I was going to name this talk, I would call it The Dog and the Death of Self. So I was on my walk a few days ago, just 2-3 days ago, and toward me was coming this human and a four-legged, and the dog drew my attention. I had never seen a dog that big. It was like a little pony. And as it got closer, it was black, muscular, big jowls, drool. And the human was very semi-reserved, beautiful beard, sort of café con leche skin, So right away I stopped. It's my ritual in Portugal. Qué lindo, ¿cómo se llama? And the human says a name that I didn't quite catch, but I knew began with a D. And then I said, if I can say hi. And the human leaned and said, es mi amigo, And I felt that in this organism, es mi amigo. And I said, oh, may I say, puedo su amigo? The dog turns, doesn't even walk toward me, so big. All it does, it turns its head and it's right there. And I put my hand out. And I ask, how old is it? And the human says, 4 years old. I said, oh. And then he says, but it's not going to live long. And I said, oh. And he said, they live to about 8 because they're so big. And I was stunned by that, Right in those, it's like 4 or 5 sentences we exchange. This dog, his friend, said, you can say hi. And he was very gentle, this dog. And he said, but he'll die soon. They only live 8 years old. I feel the vibrations in my organism as I share this with you now. As soon as they passed me, I looked up. Big dog starts with letter D, because I couldn't cross the whole thing. because I asked him again what was the name, and he thought I meant the breed, but then he said the name was like Zoo, or I can't recall the exact name of the dog. And I saw pictures, but I couldn't identify it. And but one of the pictures said it was a species of dog, and it's known because it drools a lot. If you have that kind of dog, you have to make sure. And there they were, very regal, walking down we have a big lagoon, And I saw this human, a member of the human species, and a member of the canine species, and the love that was there. And the human knew that this love was not going to last more than like 4 more years. And I already held that. And I felt how free, how free, what freedom, that we know that we were able to know that. But we know big dogs don't live very long lives. But we think we big 4-legged dogs are going to live a very long life, right? And we're not. We're not. There is a practice here in Portugal. I was commenting to Marco Sensei, at least we're in the village where I live, where when someone dies, I find out about everyone who dies because they post a color flyer, a flyer with a color picture of the person, lets you know they're died, their name, their surviving spouse, the names of the relatives, where the body's going to be in the church, like a velorio, like a wake, and when the mass takes place, memorial mass. And most of them are like 80s, 90s, there might be some 70s I've seen. I pay real attention to those, being 72, almost 72 and a half. So I was struck that yesterday there were 3 elders in their 80s who died. But I came to the panaderia, the bread shop, and they had posted another one. And it was a young woman, just 41 years old. Half the lifetime of these other ones. So of the 3 elder women, I was looking at the flyers. There's a funeral home. And then this elder woman opened the door and greeted me, and I was looking at it, and she was telling me that there was a mass. She thought it was that day, but it was the next day. At the local chapel that's dedicated to the Virgin Mary, right by the sea. And I was moved that in the flyer of one of them it said, the memorial mass will be Tuesday, this past Tuesday at 7 p.m. And how grateful they would be if we would dignify showing by our presence. This is a public invitation, It's a public invitation. So I had to go, and the chapel was packed, and there were people from all generations, from little babies causing a ruckus to elder people with canes. What I share with Enraku Sensei is that I got this sense that, I didn't know these three women. I didn't know anyone that's in the church, in the chapel for that mass. But there's something in the culture that is like it's communicated to the community. These beings have died. And you're invited to come and remember us. And how for me, in that remembering, right? Something has broken, something has torn, we've lost a loved one, but in that remembering, there's some joy, there's some comfort, there's some healing. So that was one experience connected to dog and death. The other one that struck me was that the dog doesn't know it's a dog. Doesn't know it only has 8 years to live. So the next day, I get an email from my iCloud account with all this still reverberating that is full. I have a very cheap $2.99 a month. It's full, it's not gonna back up anything else, no photos, whatever, and that I need to either upgrade to $9.99 a month or get rid of some things. So I'm going through videos. It turns out, I did not know this, I have over 12,000 photographs and over 3,000 videos. Already that's enough to let me get rid of all of them because I'm never gonna look at them again. But I would say 80%, they're cats. And I don't know if I can do that. So I started going through the videos, and there were some that I was able to get rid of. And then there's one that says, I usually first see how long the video is, because there's some that are weren't even, 2 seconds. But this one is 36 minutes and seconds. But the first is black, it's totally black. And it's oh, this got to be something I let the phone run, that it just recorded by itself. So I'm getting ready to delete it, but I thought, let me see what it is. So I start playing it, and it's dark for the several frames. And then Enraku Sensei comes online. But I know it's from 2021. So, there's short hair, but it's right there in that same scenario that you're seeing on the screen. And then this image comes online, right? And it's what is this? Because it's just this image here talking like it's now, and it's just a white wall in the back. Well, it turns out that is a Dharma talk that I gave in 2021, 6 weeks after arriving in Lisbon, when we had this transatlantic practice period. I have no clue how it ended up on my phone, and it's on the website now. So I'm just struck by this, because I'm looking at this image, and this is what at most I wanted to convey about this story. I'm looking at the image, and I'm listening to the words that's coming out of that image. And I did, and it was late here, it was after midnight, but I did something, as I shared with Enraku Sensei earlier today, that I have never done, which is that I actually sat, watched, and listened to Rumun deliver a Dharma talk. Beyond fascinating. Not so much because, what I was hearing was pretty good. I do have to say that. But let me just say, the experience of watching this, that this right here totally disappeared. And I have never experienced that before in my life. And the image I was watching was totally fresh, unfamiliar. It was like, oh, it's in that awe, the AH, like awe, and it was also the awe of AWE. Mhm. There was no one here except an experience of the eyes with an object, this, making contact, the ears making contact, sound, sight. It's that death of that self-identification that so consistently we're seduced by, that makes us forget what are we going to do with this wild and precious life. It's a death we want to welcome, moment to moment, moment to moment. So in closure, I want to close with another poem, which came to mind as Zazen was ending. And I'm struck with it wasn't conscious, but I'm struck with the first poem, Mary Oliver, who she was, where she lived. We were blessed with being able to see her at Smith College, to hear her in person. And then this other poem that is from a completely different time, completely different person. So we say different, right? We say different. And the themes are just so much similar. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. And that's from Rumi. Thank you for listening to the Dharma. May our intentions equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is inconceivable. I vow to attain it. Beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is inconceivable. I vow to attain it. Beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is inconceivable. I vow to attain it.